Tomorrow, a new Jaguar appears at Le Mans. Not racing this time, but in a position of honour, carrying the Clerk of the Cause in recognition of the tremendous victories Jaguar have scored at this great circuit. It all began in 1922 with two young men named Lyons and Walmsley building sidecars for motorbikes in Blackpool. They were sportier, better looking than anybody else's, and then they went on to cars, and by 1928 they were building this little Austin 7 saloon at £165 or so. So they started already with this combination of style and low price, and in 1931 they added performance with the SS1, which really rocked the motor show, first with cycle-type wings, later in this more graceful form with running boards. They called it the cad's car, but where else could you get that kind of style and performance at less than twice the price? £310 for that. And then came the first SS Jaguar. That was SS with the hexagon badge. This SS Jaguar, this was 1935, and by then Bill Haynes had joined the company as chief engineer, so an overhead valve engine rather than the side valve engine. This one had a wooden body frame, but later it became all steel and went on until 1948. And then the first of the post-war designs in the saloon range, the Mark V with its 3.5-litre pushrod engine, and then 2 years later, after that, 1950, came the Mark VII, which went on Mark VIII and Mark IX, and with the twin-cam XK engine, dominated saloon car, production car racing at Silverstone for 10 years. Then came the 2.4 with the basic shape we know today, still in the 240, and the Mark X, which we know today as the 420G. Meanwhile, the great Jaguar sports and racing cars were building up a worldwide reputation, beginning in 1933 with a team of tourers in the Alpine trial, then the SS Jaguar 100, which Ian Appleyard used to win the Alpine in 1950, then the immortal XK 120, that won a 3-time Alpine winner, Gold Cup, Ian Appleyard again, and then the first of the racing Jaguars, the C-Type, victorious at the Mans 51, and then with disc brakes in 53, and then the D-Type, a pure racing car allying aerodynamics to style, which really laid the foundations of current Jaguar design. You can see there the E-Type nose, and that developed various kinds of independent rear suspension until the Type, which we now have as the standard Jaguar suspension on those production E-Types and on the new model, which was announced yesterday. A new car is born, a new Jaguar, a car which replaces all the middle saloons and takes Jaguar back to their traditional 3-model policy on the saloon side. At one end, the 2.4, at the other end, the 420G, and this one in the middle, replacing everything else. As the unit structure body is lowered onto the sub-assemblies, the front suspension unit and crossmember carrying the engine and the steering, the transmission and the rear independent suspension. A car which before long will be coming out of the factory in Coventry at the rate of 350 to 400 a week. It's a new model which was unveiled yesterday. The XJ6, every inch a Jaguar, although the name doesn't appear on it anywhere, and it doesn't even have the traditional frame around the radiator grille. Comes with a choice of two 6-cylinder engines, 2.8 litres, the popular European size, and 4.2 litres, which will please the Americans. Also a choice of 3 transmissions, and the price range between about $1,790 up to $2,250. And one identifying feature is these great low-profile radial aquajet tyres. I have a feeling that the car-proud owner may finish up putting a little rubber flap down here to prevent the mud and the grit blasting the paint off the rocker panel. Underneath the bonnet, a tremendous amount of space for easy access to the engine, and it opens forward, which in itself is a safety feature. Space all around, enough to put in a V8 or a V12 engine if anyone was so minded. But there is the 6. Another feature here, twin circuit brakes and twin vacuum servo assistance, a closed circuit cooling system, and what you can't see, rack and pinion steering for the first time with the option of power if you wanted. And the engine itself mounted entirely on the cross member so that the path for vibration and noise into the body is that much longer, and this really is the smoothest and quietest Jaguar I've driven. Inside, much less of the old timber and much more accent on safety padding, just a symbolic walnut strip here and an insert here, but lots of padding, flexible knobs here for the venter pane and the window winder, recessed door latch and lock. To close the door, you have to grab the edge of the pocket with a sense of guilt, perhaps. Inside, padding all around, down here too, although I still think that the handbrake could be a bit of a hazard if you went forward, but you certainly won't have any trouble from the wheel because it's got a collapsible column and a cranked column. Switches, no more projecting switches, they're all flash-fitting rockers, but 10 of them, and you can't identify them by touch, so you have got to look down and see. Instruments very easily visible. A glove box here with a pop-out vanity mirror so that your girlfriend doesn't have to pull the driving mirror out of place. The most elaborate heater ventilation system Jaguar have ever had, with an extractor around the boot lid at the rear, face level fresh air here each side, and also this adjustable demister on top. And heat, you simply dial the amount that you want. Driving it, I didn't find that I got as much fresh air as I'd like at speeds below 50 miles an hour. But, however, on the manual cars, if you have overdrive, a new feature, the overdrive switch in and out simply on the top of the gear lever. Going from here to the rear, again something new for Jaguar, no timber here, picnic tables, but good padding to protect the rear seat occupants, and again something new, a separate heater outlet here with their own controls in the rear seat. And then going back, fuel tanks in each of the rear wings with very accessible, easily reached caps, and you can tell exactly whether they're properly shut or not. Total of 23 gallons in there, each tank encased in steel, in between a 17 cubic foot luggage boot with the spare wheel below, and there's still a very nice Jaguar toolkit. And then at the rear end, the accent on the horizontal rather than the vertical. I could have done without those little wing motifs there, but that's a matter of taste. But it is very much a Jaguar developing in the way that we all hoped. But the real thing is, how does it work on the road? Well, where would you go to try a new Jaguar? Naturally, we went to Le Mans. We've got a car over there with Michael Frostwick.
Here among the empty pits and stands at Le Mans, about 4 days before this year's race, is a very good place to look at a new Jaguar, because it was here at Le Mans that a bad old Jaguar image died and a brand new Jaguar image was made. When Bill Lyons first went into the motor car business, as opposed to making bodies, when he made the first SS1 in 1932, it looked smashing. It looked as if it was worth thousands of pounds and went like the wind. In fact, it cost about 300 quid and did 65 miles an hour flat out. And then the fun started, because people started calling it a proper cad's car and a Wardour Street Bentley and goodness knows what else. And even when the first Jaguar appeared towards the end of the 30s and was followed by the famous SS100, which was a real sports car and no nonsense, some of this old image somehow hung about. People were apt to laugh at it. Even after the war, when the SS name was dropped altogether and the firm became Jaguar Cars Limited, people still had some sort of bad image somewhere. And at the first motor show after the war, 1948, the XK120 appeared with the marvelous twin overhead camshaft engine designed by Bill Haynes with assistance from no lesser people than Wally Hassan and Harry Westlake. That was really a car, but still something stuck about. It might have been, if you'll forgive the pun, the pride of Lyons, but to a lot of people it was still just a vulgarity of Jaguars. But a few years after that, they started here at Le Mans on this very circuit, and they won it 5 times. 5 wins at Le Mans put Jaguar in the same class as Ferrari presently and Bentley in the old days of having won Le Mans 5 times. And it was added to by William Lyons' own talent as a designer. He'd been made a royal designer in industry and knighted. But the inside of a Jaguar is a Jaguar. There's no mistaking it, and so is the very individual line outside it. And that must have posed a lot of problems, because how do you make a new car which isn't a new car? Somehow, driving here on the French roads, one's reminded of the French adage, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. People who speak the language tells me that means the more you change it, the more it stays the same thing. And the most remarkable thing about this XJ6, which we're driving now around the course, is that it is the same thing. It's quite new. Everything that could be done and invented has been done and invented. As far as I know, it's taken about 4.5 years and something like £6.5 million to make this car, and yet it remains every inch a Jaguar. It's got rack and pinion steering, which is new for Jaguars, with very nice power assistance, which doesn't seem to make you feel wretched with it, but is nice and tight. It's quick, there's no roll, they've spread it out, they've insulated the engine, you can throw this thing about and feel very, very safe in the doing. It's very difficult to assess. It's just all that any Jaguar owner was looking for somehow seems to have happened. One might therefore ask, what's new about it? Well, I suppose the shape is new, but it's not so new that any schoolboy wouldn't recognize it as a Jaguar at first look. And certainly the interior is still full of mahogany and dials and tumbler switches and all the things that Jaguar owners look for. What's really new is the engineering. It's wider and longer and lower. The suspension has been much improved. It's using the new wide profile Dunlop tires, which make it stick on the road like a leech. And when one asks oneself where they're going, I mean, is it just another executive motor car, or is it still a Jaguar? One has to come down on the side of the fact that it is still a Jaguar, because it's that much in advance of almost any other saloon I think I've ever driven of this size. It really sticks on the road. It goes like a bomb. It has those little extra bits that winning Le Mans 5 times have inbred into the works, and long may they last.
Sir William, there's the Knockout's painting of the C-Type, the first car to win Le Mans at 100 miles an hour, the first time to win on disc brakes. When shall we see Jaguar going racing again?
This is a very difficult question to answer. Racing does involve the employment of a great deal of technical resources, and as we are today with the program we have for the future, we are not in a position to devote sufficient time to re-enter racing, but you can rest assured that we have this well in mind. We are watching the developments of racing, and we believe we could get back into the ring any time we feel it's necessary.
How important was it racing to you in terms of sales?
Well, very important. I'm quite sure that the image that we created as a result of racing has helped us to build up the reputation which I think I can say we enjoy today.
Does the effect wear off as the years go by?
Well, we haven't found it so. I think the image of our cars has improved as time's gone by.
Here we've got the XK120, which for many people is one of the greatest of all Jaguars. Which is your own favourite among all the cars you've built?
Oh, well, I think the very latest one, of course.
The XJ6. Now,
yes.
I was driving one of these a few weeks ago with no badges, no identification on it whatsoever on grounds of secrecy. Yet, wherever I went, people said, "Oh, look, the new Jaguar." What's the secret? Why is it so identifiable?
Well, we hoped it would look so much like a Jaguar that everybody would recognize it as such, and this, in fact, has proved to be so. The people who've seen it say Jaguar, as you say, straight away.
In fact, you've shown your confidence to such an extent that you haven't even put the name Jaguar on it anywhere.
No, we have shown confidence there, yes.
You haven't got the Jaguar mascot on the bonnet anymore either. Is that simply on grounds of safety?
The regulations in America and in many continental countries now, of course, debar the mascot on the bonnet from safety point of view. But we've put one on the side, as you see here. We've put a half on each side. We divide it into two.
Now, I see that with this model, you continue this policy of having a different styling theme for the saloon and the sports cars. You perpetuate the high vertical front, over vertical, whereas the sports cars are streamlined. You've got streamlined noses, E-type and so on. I see from some of the styling drawings that you did look into having a more streamlined saloon. Why didn't you do it?
Well, the question of overall length is very important today in these days of difficult parking. See, if one designs a low profile front, it obviously means extending it, and that means a longer bonnet and a longer overall length. And this is the reason why we did that.
I find this is one of the greatest cornering saloons in the world. You really can go around corners at 100 miles an hour, but there's nothing for the passengers to hold on to. Why don't you have more handles inside?
I agree with this. I think this is possibly the sort of criticism you would level against us, but we don't really get an awful lot of people ask for this, you know.
Does this indicate that people don't always use the performance that they buy?
Well, we think the stability of car is such that you don't have to be hanging onto handles.
But you feel the seats hold them in position.
That's right.
Looking at the back, when I first saw it, I felt maybe it would have had a stronger, more muscular look, matching the front. If this had been a convex curve instead of concave, and these lights had been bigger. And I see from some of the drawings you actually did do it that way at one time. Why did you change it?
Because after examining various designs, we came to the conclusion that this offered the pleasantest picture that we could paint.
Let's go over and look at the mechanical elements. And of course, the first thing that sticks out here, even more than on the saloon, is these tremendous tires, which
yes.
you, Dunlop, I believe, developed to your requirements. How important are they in the overall
They're
car?
very important indeed. These tires have been specially produced in conjunction with Dunlop, whom we've had very close relations with over the years, since we started with them on disc brakes. As you know, we jointly produced the disc brake in the first place. It's been fitted now on so many cars. And they have developed this tire, which has wonderful adhesion. And it does play a very big part in the stability of the car.
You've used this independent rear suspension again, basically the same as you developed in racing. But nowadays, with speed limits in the United States and speed limits in Britain, do people really appreciate refinements like this?
I'm sure they do, because not only does it give an extremely level and soft ride, but it also gives the car a great deal of stability. This question of getting a sophisticated ride, of getting a ride which gives the driver a feeling of security, is very important. It's very easy to produce a car on four wheels which will go along and go from A to B very satisfactorily. But we in Jaguar feel that it's essential that we should provide much better features, characteristics which give suspension and steering and general roadability, cornering and so on, superior to the normal car, which is very good at its price.
One thing, of course, that you have introduced on this is the anti-dive suspension, so that when you tramp on those great disc brakes, it doesn't nosedive. But there's another thing now that's very much in the news, and this is automatic leveling, so that load doesn't change the attitude and doesn't change the headlamp beams. Have you ever thought of that?
Our research people have been all through this. Mr. Haynes's team has spent a lot of time on this. It does introduce complications. We don't believe in introducing complications if we can avoid it. There are a sufficient number of them already. But I'm not saying that eventually we shall not introduce something of this kind when we are able to devise more simplified means than we've got at the moment.
You've gone to rack and pinion steering on
Yes.
this. Why did you do that?
Well, we believe it provides a much more positive control of the wheels, and it enables us to put the rack immediately behind the front cross member, which increases the safety factor very much indeed.
Then, of course, you've got this cranked column plus the collapsible part, so it must be absolutely impossible for the wheel to come back anywhere near the driver.
We have spent a very great deal of time on safety, and we believe this car does have as many safety features as it's possible to incorporate, in our present knowledge anyway.
The one thing which will surprise some people is the fact that you've continued the six-cylinder twin-cam engine when there have been rumours for so long about V8s and even V12s. What's the situation there?
Well, as you know, this engine has been in production for a long time. When it was originally introduced, it was very much ahead of anything else. It does have a very high efficiency, and there is no doubt it is recognized as one of the best engines in the world today. But we do have engines coming along in the background, and they will come along eventually.
You wouldn't like to say when?
Not at the moment, but it will be a year or so, 2 years possibly.
This is really bound up with the next question, which is the future of Jaguar as an entity. I mean, when you associated, first of all, with the BMC, there were people who said, oh Lord, Jaguar, it's going to become another Riley or Wolseley or something. Well, you successfully scotched that one, but now you're part of this vast British Leyland thing. How far can the Jaguar maintain its identity in the future?
Oh, well, it is a policy of the new British Leyland Group that Jaguar should remain the prestige car of the group. It is a board's decision that Jaguar's image must be maintained, and that there will be no question of it becoming involved in the general mass production models from PLMC.
So that these new engines, which are in course of development, are a guarantee that Jaguar will retain its mechanical individuality.
Undoubtedly so, yes. We shall do everything we can to collaborate and take advantage of the facilities which PLMC have to offer, and we are part of the group and we shall play our part in it.
And you are going to play a very big part in it now, because you're moving on to a large responsibility in British Leyland as a whole. Now, you are, I should think, probably the only man as a British motor manufacturer who's still in charge of the company, personally in charge of the company that he created. How far can you go on maintaining this personal control over the development of Jaguar while you're also overseeing what happens in British Leyland?
Well, I'll answer your last question first. As far as British Leyland is concerned, I shall endeavour to put such experience as I have into the development and the advancement of British Leyland Motor Corporation. As far as Jaguar is concerned, well, over the past few years I have been concentrating on developing the team which has served so well for so long, and they are now standing well on their own feet, and I believe they'll be able to function on their own before very long.
Yes, but at the same time, there's a pretty widespread knowledge throughout the outfit that nothing much escapes the eagle eye of Sir William. I've heard it said that you are liable to go and take a new car off the production line on Friday night and drive it home for the weekend just to check that the quality is being maintained.
Yes, this is so. I shall still keep a fatherly eye on it, even when I have relinquished my executive duties. I shall still keep a fatherly eye on Jaguar.
Well, we began this program by asking which way will the cat jump. Well, this cat is certainly jumping, and we have good reasons both on and off the record for believing that the Jaguar is in no danger of degenerating into an ordinary tabby cat. And the eagle eye of Sir William Lyons is going to be on the organisation just as it has been ever since the day in 1922 when he started making sidecars in a shed in Blackpool. But of course now he has got a very much wider responsibility as Deputy Chairman of British Leyland. And if he can manage to infuse some other parts of the organisation with his incredible enthusiasm and the fantastic Jaguar ability to get results quickly at minimum cost, then the future for the British motor industry is very bright indeed. Good night.